So I've just recorded like half of this video and my phone decided to die. So now I can only hope I'm going to have enough time to refilm all of it before my dentist appointment. So if suddenly it all becomes really dark, and it's just because I went and came back and the sun has set. So, hi friends, it's Liv. Welcome back to my channel, and let's get straight into my most anticipated books of 2022. So I get really easily hyped up about new books, which is the reason why this video has so many of them. So I'll be separating them into 3 categories. So we'll have the sequels of the year, which I won't get into because I don't want to spoil the previous books. We'll have my hit or miss of the year, which are all the books with so much potential. They could be new faves, 5 stars, but they also could fall really flat and be the most disappointing books of 2022. And then my actual most anticipated releases of 22 that I don't know how could fail. So let's get started. So in May 31st we have The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, which is the second book of the Gilded Ones series. I loved the Gilded Ones when I read them 2 years ago, I believe. Was it last year? The training part in the middle is always a favorite trope of mine. The alien feminist vibe to it, the much darker atmosphere that I thought it would have. Can't wait to read the second one. In June 9th we have For the Throne by Hannah F. Witten, which is, well, it is a sequel because it starts right after the end of For the Wolf, but I believe it's more of a companion novel from Nev's point of view. I still on the fence about it. Nev was a bit frustrating to read about, but because it starts right after the ending of For the Wolf, I'm hoping we're going to have more details and a more satisfying wrap up to the story, so I'll probably get to it sometimes. It's just not going to be a priority of mine. On August the 9th, we have Blood Like Fate by Liesl Sambury, which is a second volume to Blood Like Magic. Blood Like Magic was one of my favorite books of 2021, so I obviously can't wait to get to the second one. In August 30th, we have A Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim, which is a second volume to 6 Crimson Cranes. 6 Crimson Cranes being also a favorite of 2021, with an ending that sets a really cool potential setting for the second volume, so hype for that. In September 27th we have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, which is a second volume to Once Upon a Broken Heart. Also a favorite of 2021. Obviously we'll get to the second one. Can't wait. On September 27th we have Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Kong. It is a sequel / companion novel to These Violent Delights duology, which seems to follow Rosalind's story. I'm a bit confused about it. There seems to be something about spies, about never-aging immortals. I'm confused. I have not yet read A Violent Ends. Depending on how much I'm enjoying it, I will or will not get to that one. Still on September 27th, we have The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik, and I could not be more hyped up about this one. The Skolomans trilogy has been, well, the 2 first ones anyways, have been favorites of mine of last year. I can't wait to see how it ends. I have such high expectations. We're praying for it not to disappoint. And on November the 8th, we have Bloodmark by Tracy Dion, which is the second volume of Legendborn. I read Legendborn a little while ago. It did not make my favorite of the year, although I was really into it and a lot more into it by the end than the first half. So if the second one keeps the dynamic and atmosphere of the second part of the first one, I will be loving it. So we'll get to that in November. Then we have my hit or miss of the year, the books with a lot of potential to be new favorites, but also could fall completely flat and be massive disappointments. So let's see what we have. On January the 11th, we have Night Render by Jodie Meadows. So as I'm filming, it's February the 1st, so this has already come out. It's the first book of a new series called The Salvation Cycle. A continent on the edge of destruction, surrounded by nothingness, 3 kingdoms caught in a never-ending war, a demon plane ripping into reality. Big things are happening. Big things happening, but none so big to the people than the upcoming arranged marriage between a prince and a cunning princess from 2 of those 3 kingdoms that could potentially end that never-ending war. But the prince senses that an entire demon plane ripping into reality is actually something to be worried of, and decides to summon their only weapon, the Night Render, an immortal warrior, more weapon than girl, knowing full well that last time someone summoned her, she killed every single royal in the continent. A lot of potential there. A 3 POVs story. Very excited about the high stakes, the potential dynamic between each couple of this potential love triangle, the, I think, heavy political aspect that we should see. It could be amazing. It could also feel very hyped up as a concept and fall very flat for such high expectations. So we'll see. In January 25th, already out by now, there is The Red Palace by June He. It is a historical fiction / mystery thriller set in Joseon in 1758, so the old Korea. It follows Hyun, who is an illegitimate daughter and therefore has very little prospects of life. So when she gets a nurse position in the palace, it's more than she hoped for. That is until 4 women get killed in a single night, and Hyun's mentor and closest friend is accused of the murders. Hyun then starts her own investigation, helped by a young police inspector, when all of the evidence starts pointing to the crown prince. Honestly, I've had it for the K-drama vibes. I'm always a sucker for historical K-dramas, so even though the mystery thriller is not a genre I like or read, I will actually have it now. It arrived. I have it in my TBR cart and will get to it just because I've wanted to read a historical fiction set in Joseon for ages. In February the 1st, we have 2 books coming out, one being This Woven Kingdom by Terry Maffey, who is the writer of the Shatter Me series that I loved when I was a teenager. I especially loved her writing and cannot wait to see how much she progressed since. It's the first in a new series and gives me kind of City of Brass vibes, as it follows a servant girl who happens to be the long lost heir to a Jin kingdom, and a crown prince who is unaware of a prophecy foretelling the death of his king, and the role a string-die servant that he can't get out of his mind has to play in it. And second book coming out on February the 1st, we have Feather and Flame by Livia Blackburn. It is a twist on Disney's Mulan, where Mulan has to stop training her militia of women when the dying emperor calls her and makes her his heir. Mulan then has to face the mistrust of her ministers, the threat of the Huns, and save her country once again. I'm always a bit wary of those Disney twist retelling books. I think, well, I've heard that they fall flat quite a lot of the time, but I love Mulan and will read anything about her or any retelling of her story, so I'll give it a shot. On February 22nd, we have Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. Everything is going great for Joanne. She's 16, it's summer, she's spending it at her late mother's eccentric family in London. She just got a cool job at a historic house. Her cute co-worker asked her out on a date, until she learns a disturbing truth. Her family is not just eccentric, they're actual monsters with hidden powers. and her cute co-worker is a monster slayer. To survive, she's forced to join hands with the heir of another monster family who hates her own and potentially embrace her monstrosity, because in this story, she's not the hero. Just that last sentence got me. In this story, she's not the hero. I immediately had to buy it. We love a redemption arc, but we also love a potential corruption arc. It reminds me a bit of All of His Villains, which came out last year, that I've read, and although I enjoyed it, I expected a lot more from it. So I'm only hoping that Only a Monster does for me what All of His Villains could not. On March the 1st, we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Does not need to be introduced. It's V. Schwab. I'll give it a read regardless of the story. And this one follows Olivia, which is going to be disturbing to read somebody with the same name as me. Olivia's only link to the past is a journal from her late mother, who seems to descend into madness. She is desperate for a sense of belonging and therefore does not hesitate when she receives an invitation to come home to Gallant. And that's also why she stays, even though everyone seems to be confused as how she got there, who sent this invitation, the hostility she feels from the other members of her family, and the weird things she seems to see in the hallways of the manor. When she crosses over a magical veil, she finds herself in sort of shadow realm and a sort of replica of Gallant, where all these creepy stuff going around are real and they're all ruled by a mystical figure. She sees an opportunity to learn more about herself and her heritage and faces a dilemma. Will she become a prior, protecting our world against the master of the house, or will she take her place by his side? Once again, corruption arc. We love to see it. It could also not be a corruption arc and be disappointing. So, we'll see. On March 1st, we have Tell Me an Ending by Joe Harkin. It is a dystopian slash sci-fi novel where a tech company can delete unwanted memories. We follow 5 characters trying to remember what they so wanted to forget. Finn, an Irish architect living in America who suspects his wife to be having an affair. May, a Kuala Lumpur grad school dropout who keeps remembering cities she's never been to. William, a former police inspector who faces a failed marriage, PTSD, and a family secret. Oscar, traveling all over the world, not remembering anything and living in a constant state of fear. And Noor, a psychologist at the tech company who suspects her boss to be doing some dodgy business. As I said before, I don't read that much sci-fi, so I'm always a bit picky about the ones I decide to give a go to, but the concept of this one sounded interesting, and the idea of having 5 POVs that I could bounce between if one of them is not my cup of tea felt like a safe bet. In March 22nd, we have The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. The City of Dusk is at the converging point of 4 realms: light, darkness, life, and death. For each realm a god, and for each god an heir. But when the gods abandon the city and the realms are threatened to collapse, the 4 heirs, a necromancer struggling to keep the peace, an elementalist with the eyes set on the throne, a shadow-wielding rogue with rebellion in her heart, and a soldier who struggles to see the light, come together to save the city at a cost. We always love living gods, a group of ragtag heirs coming together despite their very different perspective on things, but brought together by a common goal. It could be very interesting and quite dark, and I'm thinking more like Sanderson type books, or it could just fall very flat for such an exciting concept. On April the 12th, we have An Arrow to the Moon by Emily X.R. Pan, which is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet / Chinese mythology. Just knowing that, I put it straight into my anticipated releases of 2022, but it is a contemporary and I'm not a big contemporary person, so we'll see if it manages to make me change my mind on contemporaries. On April 26th, we have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. It follows a quiet convent-raised youngest princess of a kingdom who wants to save her abused sister by killing her prince, but only if she manages to accomplish 3 impossible tasks. It gives me a donkey skin type retelling, which I always find very magical. It's the reason I bought and read Spin the Dawn, and it's the reason I'll probably buy and read this one, so hopefully it lives up to my expectations. In May 17th, we have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, first in the Sandsea trilogy. Luli is a smuggler of illegal magic held by a Jinn bodyguard, but when she saves the life of a man who turns out to be the crown prince, she brings upon herself the attention of his father, the king, and is blackmailed into finding a magical lamp that can revive barren land at one cost, the life of all jinns. I love the potential dynamic between Luli and her bodyguard. Why is he helping her when it's threatening his life and the life of all of his kind? What is the son of the king going to do by tagging along with them? We could have great dynamic. We also have a very boring love triangle, so it's really depending how Chelsea is going to handle that, but I will find out. In August 16th, we have The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd-Jones. Emily Lloyd-Jones is the author of The Bone House that I've read and loved back in 2020, I think. She does great fairy tale type work that makes you really think about life and has kind of more of a lesson at the end, like an original fairy tale. So I was going to read whatever else she would publish anyway, but she's publishing another dark, whimsical fairy tale mixed with a heist novel. It follows the last water diviner who was used and abused by her prince and now seeks to destroy him and his work that she was used for. She brings together a ragtag team of unlikely allies. I'm hearing spy corgi, so all to achieve her goal and bring peace to her kingdom and herself. The spy corgi got me interested. And lastly, on September the 6th, we have Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Berwa. 16-year-old Coral and her older brother Emric make a living by capturing maristags, who are monstrous creatures used for the Gloria Race, which is a Shario tournament for the upper class, often deadly. But when the last of the maristags is gone, Coral has no other choice to earn enough money to help her chronically ill little sister to survive than to cheat her way into the race. Except her adversaries have no intention to letting a low caste participate or even less win that race, and forces her to choose between her life and her sister's. Now to get onto the actual most anticipated releases of 2022. On January the 11th, we have The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. It's already out by now and already in my TBR card, and I hope to be getting to it soon. Xingyan's mother has been exiled by the Celestial Emperor for stealing his elixir of immortality, and she's been hiding with her daughter on the moon since. When Xingyan's magic flares up and threatens to reveal them, she has to flee on her own, leaving her mother alone, and make her way to the Celestial Kingdom, where she learns all about archery, magic, and more than she would have liked about love by the Emperor's son's side. It is said to be an enchanting romantic duology which weaves ancient Chinese mythology into a sweeping adventure of immortals and magic, where love vies with honor, dreams are fraught with betrayal, and hope emerges triumphant. I do not see how any of that could go wrong. On February the 1st, so today, we're having Castle in Their Bones, the first volume of a new series by Laura Sebastian. I'll read you the blurb because it convinced me and I can't do better than that. Empress Margaret has had plans for her daughters since the day they were born. Princesses Sophronia, Daphne and Beatrice will be queens. And now, age 16, they each must leave their homeland and marry the princes. The beginning of a beautiful story. Beautiful, smart and demure, the triplets appear to be the perfect brides because Margaret knows there is one common truth. Everyone underestimates a girl. Which is a grave mistake. Sophronia, Daphne and Beatrice are no innocents. They have been trained since birth in the arts of deception, seduction and violence with a singular goal: to bring down monarchies. And their marriages are merely the first stage of the mother's grand vision to one day reign over the entire continent of Hysteria. The princesses have spent their lives preparing, and now they're ready, each with their own secret skill, and each with a single wish, pulled from the stars. Only the stars of their own plans, and the mother hasn't told them all of hers. Yes. Just yes. Another feminist vibe story. Princess being killers. I can't wait. In February 22nd, we have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. In a homeland devastated by wars, storms, and floods, Mina's people believe that the sea gods that used to protect them have now cursed them, and in an attempt of appeasing them, their only great idea is to each year sacrifice the most beautiful maiden of their village as a sea god's bride, as you do, and hoping that the day they pick the right one, the true bride, the god will break the curse and protect them once again. When her brother's lover is picked as a sacrifice, Mila's brother goes after her at sea to save her, and Mila throws herself into the water to save them both. Only when she's swept into the spirit realm, she realizes that the sea god is caught in a magical sleep and sets herself on a quest to wake him. But she's on a time crunch because humans cannot stay in the spirit realm for long, while alive, and a lot of people seem to want the sea god to never awaken. Demons, gods, spirits, mystical beast, a magical city, mysterious young man who's going to help her. Lovely, mystical. We love that. On February the 22nd as well, we have Daughters of a Dead Empire by Caroline Tara O'Neill. All I needed to know about it, and all I say about it, is that it's an Anastasia retelling / historical fiction. I honestly don't want to know more. I don't want to say more about it. I love that period. I love stories about the Romanovs. I will read any retelling of Anastasia I can get my hands on, and it is described as a harrowing historical thriller about dangerous ideals, loyalty, and the price we pay for change. So I'll get that as soon as it's out. Then in March 1st, we have Travelers Along the Way by Amina May Safi. It is a Robin Hood retelling. Need I say more? You can say I'm obsessed with retellings now. I will read the blurb once again because it's very convincing. Jerusalem, 1192. The Third Crusade rages on. Rama al-Hud loyally followed her elder sister Zina into the war over the Holy Land. But now that the Farangi invaders have gotten reinforcement from Richard the Lionheart, all she wants to do is get herself and her sisters home alive. But Zina, a soldier of honor at heart, refuses to give up the fight while Jerusalem remains in danger of falling back into the hands of the false queen, Isabella. And so Rama has no choice but to take on one final mission with her sister. On their journey to Jerusalem, Rama and Zina come across a motley collection of fellow travelers, including a soft-spoken Mongolian warrior, an eccentric Andalusian scientist, a frustratingly handsome spy with a connection to Rama's childhood, and an unfortunate English chaplain abandoned behind enemy lines. The teens all find solace, purpose, and camaraderie, as well as a healthy bit of mischief in each other's company. But the travels soon bring them into the orbit of Queen Isabella herself, whose plan to re-seize power in Jerusalem would only guarantee further war and strife in the Holy Land for years to come. And so it falls to the merry band of misfits to use every scrap of cunning and wit, and not a small amount of thievery, to foil the usurper queen and perhaps finally restore peace to the land. I'm so excited for this one. On March the 8th, we have A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft. Whoever kills the Hala, the last living mystical creature during the half-moon hunt, earns fame, riches, and an ancient magical secret. Margaret is the best sharpshooter in town and is convinced that winning the race is the only way to bring her mother home. But only teams of 2 can register, and Margaret needs an alchemist. Lucky then that Wester Winters is on her way to a manor, ready to beg for his last chance after being fired from every alchemist internship he got into. It's described as an achingly tender love story set against a deadly hunt in an atmospheric, rich fantasy world that will sweep you away. Honestly, I'm all in here for the atmosphere. The atmosphere seems to be really the selling point here, and I'm sold. On March the 8th as well, we have Blood Cyan, the first one in a new series by Deborah Fallay. It is inspired by Yoruba Nigerian mythology and follows Soan. Soan is a descendant of the Orisha gods, a Cyant, and as such can incinerate enemies at will. Under the threat of death if her identity is ever found out under Luce's brutal rule, she receives the conscription to Luce's military on her 16th birthday and sees an opportunity to destroy them from within. But rising through the ranks offers Sloan a greater danger, losing herself entirely and becoming the very thing she despises. Dentist time. I'll get back to you in an hour, I guess. So, the doctor appointment was very unpleasant. And then when I got back, I filmed the rest of the video and realized at the last minute that I didn't press the record button properly. So then the sun set, and then I was working the next day. So we're now February the 3rd. Let's jump straight back into the video. On March the 15th, we have The Terrier's Daughter by Ellen Alston. It is a historical fiction about the life of the daughter of Peter the Great and his wife Catherine. It's technically a follow-up of Ellen's debut novel Terrina, but they can be read separately, independently from one another, and that's what I will be doing. Elizabeth is young, beautiful, the envy of all of Russia. She has a marriage to Louis XV of France in prospect. And then her father dies, her mother is taking the throne, and her brother is executed. History deals out blow after blow as the court of Russia hides its violence and ambition behind a rich, decadent facade. And it is up to Elizabeth to decide what to do when the imperial crown is left to an infant, and she has to decide if she's willing to harm an innocent child to seize the power, or to follow into her brother's footsteps. I've always very much liked very realistic historical fiction that felt more like biography, documentary than fiction. So it might be a complete bore for others, but I believe this is going to be right up my alley. On March 22nd, we have The Bone Orchid by Sarah A. Mueller. Charm is many things. She is a witch, the last of a line of necromancers. She's a prisoner confined into the garden of the orchid house, forced to grow and regrow bone trees. She is a madame, selling the time of girls that aren't real to the rich and powerful. And on Thursday, she's also the emperor's mistress. And now, as he summons her to his deathbed, she's the one who has to figure out which one of his awful, faithless sons put him in it, and which one will take the throne after him. If she does, she gets her freedom, but she also betrays everything inside her heart, so she must choose justice for the empire or justice for her. It sounds amazing, honestly. The concept of a woman being so many things and having so much power while also being a prisoner and kind of in a hopeless situation. I'm so curious to see how the dynamic of all of that is going to work, how it's going to fit into those sons' problems. It says just enough, but not enough. I can't wait, and it's already pre-ordered. On March 29th, we have A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy I. Lin, which will be soon followed by the second volume in August 23rd, so we'll have the full duology within the year. Ning unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her mother, and that same poison tea is now killing her sister. So when she hears that the competition for the kingdom's greatest tea maker, Shenongshi, she travels to the imperial city to compete because the winner will receive a favor from the princess, which Ning believes is the only way to save her sister's life. We have backstabbing competitors, bloody court politics, a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret. I'm so excited about this. First of all, having the whole duology in a year is awesome. Not having to wait is amazing. Just enough time to get you properly immersed in the story, but not enough that you forget the plot and you have to reread it from the beginning when the second one comes out. So that's amazing. The covers are absolutely gorgeous. And I love, once again, a good competition. And I don't know why. I think because it's quite uncommon to have a competition such as tea brewing, tea making. I'm super curious to see what's going to end up feeling like, because we always have competitions about violent stuff or fighting. The fact that we have a competition about something as pacifist as a tea making one is really interesting to me, and it kind of feels that, once again, magical but K-drama vibe. I'm all for it. I can't wait. On April 26th, we have Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. Kaikeyi is the only daughter of the kingdom of Kekaya and grew up on the story of mighty benevolent gods, yet she witnesses her father exile her mother, her worth as a woman being reduced to what kind of arranged marriage she can win, and see all of her praise to the gods completely unanswered. When she discovers her hidden magic, she becomes a queen, a diplomat, a warrior, and decides to carve a better world for herself and the women around her. But when her path clashes with the one the gods had in mind, she has to decide how much is worth her resistance and what kind of legacy she wants to leave behind. I've heard a lot of people being excited about this one. It made me excited about this one. Always love a strong, powerful woman taking charge of her own life and fate. Always love that kind of, I do what I want with my fate, but also the fate is God's given. So what do you do when you don't want for yourself what the gods had in store for you? On May 3rd, we have Book of Night by Holy Black. Author of The Cruel Prince, so Ota Bai. In a world where shadows can be altered for cosmetic entertainment, altering emotion, gaining power, Charlie is a low-level con artist that just minds her own business. But when a figure from her past resurfaces, she's thrown into a mess of murder, secrets, sets against shadow thieves, doppelgangers, and her own sister, all to control the magic of the shadows. That technically feels like a hit or miss for me. Really cool concept, but we could easily fall flat. But it's wholly black, so I'll just trust her blindly and go into it with full faith. It's going to be amazing. On June 7th, we have 2 books coming out. We have Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. It is the author of The Wolf and the Woodsman. So one of my favorite books of 2020. Enough reason for me to read it, to be honest. It follows the story of 3 sisters, the 3 last true witches of a city transitioning from magic to industry, escaping their abusive father in the night's reveals, while a monster is lurking into its shadow. Really loving the concept of transitioning from magic to industry. We always see kind of magic being something so superior, like something we don't have access, and that industry is our way to replace. So the idea of magic being the one that was there first and that industry was better and we replaced magic with it, is such a cool concept. And then in there being actual true witch, so saying that in that city there's probably a lot of fakes, a lot of scammers, and those are the 3 last true witches, but also from the blurb seem to be pretending to be scammers, and seeing the whole city just turning away from what they are. I'm so excited about the whole concept. I think it's going to be amazing. And also on June 7th, we have Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph Waite. Armageddon was unleashed and the humanity almost entirely wiped out when a trans boy raised by the cult at the source of all of it, and who is being turned into a bioweapon against his will, runs away and tries to find a way to escape that cult. He stumbles upon a group of LGBT plus teens and accept to be their own weapon. Maybe because the leader happens to be particularly handsome and mysterious, but so mysterious that he might also have a hidden agenda. Dystopian vibes, teen boy saving the day, a LGBT plus teen community fighting against the end of humanity. I mean, I'm so here for it. In June 23rd, we have The Final Strife by Sahara El Afiri. It is set in an empire that divides people by the color of their blood and follows 3 girls: Amour, red-blooded, disappointment to her mother, who is the empire's tyrant; Sela, daughter of the resistance, who is prophesied to spark a revolution until her entire family is murdered before her eyes; and Hassa, a slave whose invisibility to the red-blooded ruling class gives her plenty of secret to reignite a revolution. Following 3 women, love following point of views from different groups that are fighting against each other. It feels so like obviously there's going to be a good one and a bad one, but then we'll have 3, and surely they're all going to be people we can feel for and want to root for, but obviously rooting for one means rooting against the other, so always love that dynamic. Another caste divided system, which is always a trope I like, so a lot of hope for that one. On July the 5th, we have The Darkening by Sunya Mara, which is the first one in a new series. In a city surrounded by constant storms that curses everything it touches, Vesper, daughter of failed revolutionaries, has lost her mom to the storm as a punishment and is willing to do anything it takes to save her father the same fate. And that means infiltrating a paranoid prince, elite of warrior sorcerers, and cheat her way into his cold heart. The enemies to lovers potential of this is all I can ask for 2022. On July 26th, we have Violet Made of Thorns by Gina Chen. It is said to be perfect for fans of the Cruel Prince, so here's the blurb. Violet is a prophet and a liar. influencing the royal court with a cleverly phrased and not always true divinations. Honesty is for suckers, like the oh so not charming Prince Cyrus, who plans to strip Violet of her official role once he's crowned at the end of the summer, unless Violet does something about it. But when the king asks her to falsely prophesy Cyrus's love story for an upcoming ball, Violet awakens a dreaded curse, one that will end in either damnation or salvation for the kingdom, all depending on the prince's choice of future bride. Violet faces her own choice, sees an opportunity to gain control of her own destiny, no matter the cost, or give in to the ill-fated attraction that's growing between her and Cyrus. As soon as I've read Violet is a prophet and a liar, I was in immediately. I did not need to read any more than that. Once again, enemies to lovers potential, but I just love the concept of her having true powers and faking it the whole time and by mistake setting something very real, potentially destroying the kingdom. I want it. In August 16th, we have the first binding by R.R. Verdi. Just reading the blog once again because it just... All legends are born of truth, and just as much lies. These are mine. Judge me for what you will, but you will hear my story first. I buried the village of Ampor under a mountain of ice and snow. Then I killed their god. I've stolen old magics and been cursed for it. I started a war with those that walked before mankind, and lost the princess I loved and wanted to save. I've called lightning and bound fire. I am legend, and I am a monster. My name is Ari, and this is a story of how I let loose the first evil. It sounds so epic! It sounds so epic. August is so far. And the last one on August 29th, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. I'm still quite confused about the whole thing. We have Babel, a royal institution of translation. We have silverworking, that is kind of magic using translation as a magic weapon. We have a Chinese boy raised in Britain who sees his loyalty tested when knowledge for Babel means supporting the extension of the empire's colonization. So a lot of really, really potentially deep concepts. It's R.F. Kuang, so I imagine very dark, very depressing, but so well crafted. It is said to grapple with student revolutions, colonial resistance, and the use of translation as a tool of empire. So I'm buzzing about that one. And honestly, I don't think R.F. Kuang can write a single book that I would not enjoy, so probably a future 5-star of the year. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Have a lovely rest of day or evening, and hopefully see you again soon.